Hiya! I watched every episode of Phineas and Ferb, so I have very much nostalgia for this show, so I decided to talk about it on my channel. But first, before we do that, where's Perry? Oh, there you are, Perry. You're just in time for me to do a deep dive on Phineas and Ferb. Come here.
104 days of summer vacation, and school comes along just to end it. So the annual problem for our generation is finding a good way to spend it.
I really wish I didn't see that. So for those of you who are unaware, Phineas and Ferb was a Disney Channel animated series started from 2008 till 2015. The total of 4 seasons. If you're wondering how they only got 4 seasons within that 7-year gap, it's because for 3 of those years, the show went on hiatus, which is probably why I stopped watching it. But when you watch an episode of Phineas and Ferb, you've pretty much seen it all. It's what I like to call the Phineas and Ferb formula, because everything that happens in the show stays very, very consistent. So basically, in a typical episode of Phineas and Ferb, typically each episode will start off with Phineas and Ferb sitting under a tree in their backyard till Phineas has an idea and he says, "Ferb, I know what we're going to do today." And then at some point, someone says, "Hey, where's Perry?" And that's when their pet platypus, Perry, sneaks off somewhere to a secret lab because Perry is a part of a secret organization with anthropomorphic animals and they fight crime or something. So Perry will sneak off to fight someone who is probably my favorite, Doofenshmirtz. He's the evil Dr. Doofenshmirtz. He's not really a doctor and he's not really evil. A very important character. So during the day, Phineas and Ferb will build whatever they're going to build for that day, and then their sister Candace will see all this and tries to bring her mother into the backyard to see what Phineas and Ferb are up to so she can bust them. She never really busts them. Only to come back and the huge thing that they built has suddenly disappeared, so Candace is left to question her own sanity. Was it really there in the first place? And then at the end of the day, Perry comes along and then Phineas will say, "Oh, there you are, Perry." Rinse and repeat. Now, before we get into the rest of the series, let's break down each character. Phineas and Ferb, they're pretty important characters since that is what the show is named after. So there are these 2 step-brothers, Phineas Flynn and Ferb Fletcher. They're on summer vacation and they're trying to make the most out of their summer vacation, so they build all these crazy stuff. And then there's their sister Candace Flynn, who tries to bust them every day. She's kind of high-strung. She kind of is crazy. And then, of course, we have their pet platypus, Perry the platypus, as he's often called. And he's a part of this organization, as I mentioned earlier, a part of this organization of animals who kick butt and all. And they have this next-door neighbor, Isabella Garcia Shapiro. So she lives across the street from the boys. And she always comes along saying, "What you doing?" And she's part of this group Girl Scouts. They call themselves the Fireside Girls. And then we have Buford and Baljeet. And their traits are basically bully and nerd. Buford's the bully, Baljeet's the nerd. That's basically their only personalities. There's a lot more characters, but we'll learn more about them as we go. So I did watch every episode of Phineas and Ferb, including the new season, for this video. I also watched it because I was curious of how the show ended, since I never got to see the conclusion. So now I saw it, and I'll give my thoughts on it at the end of this video. But first, let's talk about this unaired pilot.
There's 104 days of summer vacation before school comes along just to end it. So the annual problem for our generation is finding a good way to spend it.
Now this episode is almost the same as the pilot that was aired, the one about the roller coaster. But there are some differences in this pilot right here. Like, for example, this logo is pretty different from the final logo of the series. You can tell that this pilot was unfinished because there's some choppy animation and there's some scrapped scenes that never made it into the final pilot. For example, when they were in the roller coaster, Phineas was telling the group about emergency exit, but in the final pilot, they took this part out. And while riding the roller coaster, there's 2 monkeys that can be seen juggling bicycles. This wasn't in the final pilot, but what was in the final pilot was Candace and her mom, Linda, talking in the grocery store. This is when Linda brought up the time Candace tried telling her the boys were training monkeys to juggle bicycles. So when I started to watch the series again, I was a bit taken aback because I kind of like remembered that, oh wait, this whole show is like a musical. Because the thing about the Phineas and Ferb formula, as I mentioned before, they always have to have a music number, at least one music. Sometimes they have 2, or if anything interesting is happening, they always have to sing about it. Like when Candace goes to Mars, she has to sing about being in Mars. And then when this character Stacy became a miniature golfing queen, they sang about how she's a miniature golfing queen. By the way, Stacy is Candace's best friend. I think you guys should know who Stacy is. They basically sing about whatever they're doing in the episode while they're doing it. Now, for the inventions that Phineas and Ferb would build every day, as interesting as they are, they'll disappear every day. Their inventions disappear every day, but that's because Heinz Doofenshmirtz builds his own inventions, although he calls them innators. He names them after whatever they do, like the leaf blower innator, which I don't know the difference between that and a regular leaf blower. But yeah, they disappear every day because of Doofenshmirtz's invention. You see, Heinz Doofenshmirtz's goals here is to take over the entire Tri-State area. It makes more sense when he explains it through backstory, because he had a rough childhood. He's been overshadowed by his brother. His mother made him dress up like a girl and set him into public. And his own mother did not show up for his birth. What a bitch. So he makes these machines to help him get revenge on people sometimes, or just help him towards his goals. And when Perry the Platypus gets involved, Perry always foils his plans. So here's how Doofenshmirtz and Perry's interactions will typically go. Perry will bust into Doofenshmirtz Evo Incorporated, and then Doofenshmirtz traps Perry, and somehow after Doofenshmirtz tells him his long backstory, then Perry breaks free. Then they fight for a while until misfires and hits Phineas and Ferb's inventions, and then Perry presses the self-destruct button, and then the whole thing blows up. I don't know why he adds the self-destruct button on every single one of his machines. And now, at some point in season 1 or season 2, I don't know, but at some point, Norm gets introduced. Norm is the robot that Doofenshmirtz has built to do his bidding. Norm, wants more than anything for Doofenshmirtz to even acknowledge him. Norm sees him as his dad. It's actually pretty sad. Norm is just a robot to him. Kind of reminds me of Jeff from Billy and Mandy. Jeff thinks of Billy as his dad, but of course with Jeff being a spider and all, Billy wants nothing to do with him. Thing is, Doofenshmirtz already has a daughter, Vanessa Doofenshmirtz. Vanessa is a goth teenage girl, and she typically, is embarrassed of her dad. It's understandable. I mean, look at him. But all that Doofenshmirtz wants is for his daughter to follow in his footsteps, to become evil. Because, that's the family business. And, later in the series, Vanessa becomes Candace's best friend. Speaking of Candace, a lot of bad things always happens to her, but it's mostly for comedic purposes. oh, Candace is getting chased by a bunch of wild animals. Or, oh, Candace has squirrels in her pants. And most of these things happens because she accidentally gets wrapped up in Phineas and Ferb's antics. And this all happens while she tries to get her mom to see what the boys are up to. In the process, sometimes she ends up getting busted herself. You can't help but feel bad for her. Hey, you know how Phineas has red hair, but then in the next frame, he has orange hair? I just noticed that and I wanted to bring it up. So anyway, like in this one episode, Candace finally had evidence of what the boys did every day, so she wanted to present that evidence to her mom, and the footage of all of this was on one disc. So at the end of the day, she couldn't bring herself to do it because it was Phineas's birthday, so she destroyed the evidence. Which I need to talk about this episode. There's an episode about Phineas having a birthday, but the thing is that it's barely even about his birthday. The whole episode is like a clip show, and they keep referencing that it is a clip show. It's kind of annoying. I mean, I think you see this kind of things in other shows where they show past episodes that they've done before, and they put it all in one episode, and then you only have like 10 minutes of original new content. In another episode, they actually did this again, but this time they just showed off all of their past songs, like all their past music numbers that they did, sing every episode. So now they were showing that in a single episode, and again they just called it a clip show. And then this is actually the most nothing episode ever, because they even acknowledge that they're a cartoon, that this is all just a show. And I hate when shows do that. You can see this kind of thing happen in such shows as Family Guy, where they acknowledge that it's just a cartoon. But yeah, I hate when shows like do this fourth wall breaking of acknowledging that they're just a cartoon. Let's talk about Perry the Platypus now. Because now Perry the Platypus is a part of the secret agency of anthropomorphic animals, where they fight crime and they fight pharmacists like Doofenshmirtz. But there's a lot of these evil villains out there. But in the agency, he's called Agent P. And the head of the agency is none other than Major Monogram, but his real name is Francis. So he gives Perry intel every day to tell him what Doofenshmirtz is up to, and then Perry is on the case. Now no one knows Perry leads a secret double life, because everyone's supposed to think that, he's a platypus, they don't do much. I mean, nobody's supposed to know except for Stacy, which Stacy is, again, Candace's best friend, and she eventually finds out about Perry the Platypus and swears to keep his secret. But his host family can never know that he's a part of the agency. But eventually, we will find out what would happen if Phineas and Ferb and their family found out about who Perry really is. And for that, we'll have to watch Phineas and Ferb Across the Second Dimension. In 2011, Phineas and Ferb, the first movie, came out. The movie took place during the third season. And yes, I did say this was the first movie because 9 years later, another movie came out. I watched the first movie when I was like 14, but I had to re-watch it for this video, so let's talk about it. I'm going to sum up this movie real quick because we got the other movie to talk about. So Phineas and Ferb were in the middle of playing with one of their inventions when suddenly they crashed into Doofenshmirtz's building, and seeing how they busted up his latest innator, they decided to help. When Perry came along, he tried to stop the boys from helping Doofenshmirtz, of course. He tried to stop them any way he could. He even pissed on the couch, he was so committed. But eventually, they got it working. It opened up a portal to another dimension, hence the title of the movie. This is almost like their own dimension, except in this one, Doofenshmirtz is the ruler. Later, Doofenshmirtz found his evil self. Not only that, but the Perry from this dimension works for Dr. Doofenshmirtz. And when the evil Doofenshmirtz saw Perry, the good Perry, He caught him out in front of the boys and said that he was a secret agent. They didn't believe him, of course, so he ordered the cyborg Perry to hit the good Perry, but Perry just took this abuse because he didn't want to blow his cover in front of Phineas and Ferb. But as Phineas and Ferb were seeing if he was okay, Dr. D ordered Cyborg Perry to hit the boys, knowing that Perry would defend them. After finding out Perry is a secret agent, Phineas was really upset. I mean, if I found out my pet was a secret agent, I'd be like, that's pretty cool. But Phineas was hurt that Perry was hiding this secret for so long from them. But later in the movie, Phineas and Ferb met their other dimension selves. The other Phineas and Ferb explained how their Perry left one day and never came back, because now he's a cyborg. In this dimension, all the people of Danville is ordered to stay inside, and Candace is a badass in this movie. It's actually pretty cool. But she and Isabella is a part of an elite team of good guys fighting against Dr. Doofenshmirtz. When that other Dr. Doofenshmirtz came to this dimension, Perry gave Phineas and Ferb a locket that they gave him when they first adopted him. While in the living room of their home, the locket kept making this beeping noise that led them to Perry's secret lab. That's when they learned Perry prepared for this day, in the event that Dr. Doofenshmirtz would take over the entire planet or the city of Danville. Phineas and Ferb would have to use every past invention they created to defeat him. But after the bad guys were defeated, everyone found out Perry would have to be reassigned to another family because they knew of his secret. But then everyone unanimously decided, nah, let's have our memories erased instead. That would be dope. So if no one besides Perry remembers anything, did the movie even happen? But yeah, that's pretty much how the movie ends. By the way, on Disney Plus, they cut out one of the songs. It's actually a deleted scene, but they included it in the DVD, so that's pretty cool. Oh yeah, and Isabella always had a thing for Phineas, so spoiler for a movie that came out 14 years ago, but Isabella kissed Phineas before having their minds erased. Also, look at Dr. Doofenshmirtz right here. They never explain why he's like this, looking like Hannibal Lecter. That's not the only time we see the Phineas and Ferb from this dimension, because they actually got their own episode. This was a great idea bringing them back, so we could see how life was for them after the events of the movie. It's about Doofenshmirtz breaking out of prison, but plot twist, he didn't really break out of prison. It was his ex-wife. And it's about Candace trying to lead a normal life of a teenage girl and Phineas and Ferb trying to be kids again. So Candace Against the Universe was a movie that came out in 2020, 9 years after the series has ended. And I'm not going to talk too much about this movie because I didn't have an easy way to record footage for this on account that I don't have the DVD. But the movie is focused on Candace, and no matter how hard she tries to bust her brothers, she never can get her mom to see what's going on in the backyard in time. So we have Candace getting mad at Phineas and Ferb, and she's really upset. And she made her brothers realize that she's been unhappy all summer long, and the summer before that. And the summer before that. So the boys decided to make her a gift. Before they could give it to her, she was launched in outer space somehow. So Candace found this planet, and these aliens worships her, and she's like the chosen one, which reminds me of that special of Very Odd Parents, when everyone kept calling Timmy the chosen one. That's kind of weird. But the movie ends with Candace making up with her brothers, and then Phineas and Ferb gave her the gift that they made. And then a lot of other shit happens at the end. It gets kind of weird, but you're gonna have to just watch it for yourself. I'm not really good at explaining movies. I mean, I get why they made it, but I don't know why they made it so long after they stopped producing episodes for the show. The final episode of Phineas and Ferb was good. Now, it was okay. We get to see Phineas and Ferb and their friends at the age of 18, and they're starting college. Phineas and Isabella finally hooked up, and Ferb and Vanessa has a thing for each other, and everything was good. Happy ending. Except, this isn't the final episode of Phineas and Ferb. Now, this is the episode before the final episode. The final episode of Phineas and Ferb was titled Phineas and Ferb, The Last Day of Summer. And this episode I can't really talk too much about because it is very convoluted, and Just all you really need to know about it is that it is the last day of summer. I mean, I don't know why they did it like this. They could have very easily put the grown-up episode at the very end, and the last day of summer could have been the episode before that episode. You never guess what they did at the end of this episode's last day of summer. You want to know what they did? They broke in a song. Anyway, there's still a whole lot of stuff I didn't even mention, like the other characters. Like Jeremy Johnson. Jeremy Johnson is Candace's love interest and eventual boyfriend. And Susie is Jeremy's little sister, who always tries to make Candace's life a living hell. And Doofenshmirtz's ex-wife. They're divorced. And my favorite, giant floating baby head. In 2025, they came out with the 5th season of Phineas and Ferb, and I think it was good. A lot of people are saying how we didn't need a 5th season, and they have all the original voice actors, almost all of them. Speaking of voice actors, the first voice of Phineas for the first 2 episodes of the show was someone different, but then this guy, he's the voice of Phineas for the duration of the show. You can't teeth on my cords. No. I wish they would have kept the original voice actor, because the other voice actor actually sounded a lot younger. But anyway, they probably brought back Phineas and Ferb for nostalgia purposes, like TV and movies often do. But anyway, that was my deep dive on Phineas and Ferb. And no matter what anybody tells you, the 5th season is good. So Phineas and Ferb is great, and even till this day, you can still find YouTube videos of people even reenacting segments from the show. It's crazy. Like, people do these live action segments and music numbers. So Phineas and Ferb is pretty popular. It's probably never going to be a classic like SpongeBob, but it's still a good show. So this is a part of the video where I tell you to subscribe, because I put a lot of effort and research into this video. Sometimes I put research into my videos. It depends how passionate I am about the project. You can see right here I made a video. I probably did research on that. Or it's over here. I'm putting 2 videos up. I probably did some amount of research in both videos. Subscribe. But before we go, hey, where's Perry? Have you seen him?